Welcome back to A Story to Tell from the campus of Dixie State University. Today we're speaking with two young ladies that have fabulous stories to tell, Freda and Kathy. Freda, tell me about yourself.
Right. Well, about me personally was I was born in Dublin in Ireland, and then I moved to Liverpool when I was 13. Got a job when I was 16, just for a year or two, but then something happened and I ended up going to the Cavern where I saw the Beatles, and that was it.
The Beatles?
Yeah.
I've heard of them. Twice, I think.
Well, he wouldn't have done. I think only Liverpool knew of them then, because he didn't have a manager, and they had just come back from Hamburg in Germany, and this was 1961, and they wore all leather gear on stage, and they played in a cellar called the Cavern. And I went there in my dinner hour, and what I saw for the first time, I definitely wanted more. So I would go in my dinner hour every day to the Cavern. They went on every day, but I made a point of going every day because there was other groups that became famous, played at the Cavern.
Well, those people from Britain kind of took over here, didn't they?
Yeah, we took over in 1964, and it was the Beatles that done it, because there was other English artists went to America, but they didn't make the grade. But you know, you didn't know what hit you when the Beatles came, did you?
Those Yankees are kind of hard on the Brits, except the Beatles.
Yeah.
So how long, what did you do with the Beatles? Tell us about that.
Right, well, I got to know them in 1961, and then they got a manager called Brian Epstein in 1962, and he got to know me through following them. And he decided he was going to be their manager and start an agency for groups. So he already had one secretary, so he needed another secretary. So he offered me the job of his secretary. And another friend of mine, she ran a fan club for the Beatles, and occasionally I would help her, not very often. So when their first record came out in October, Love Me Do, in 1962, she started getting quite a bit of mail. And she got engaged, and she decided she didn't want to do the fan club anymore. So their manager, Brian Epstein, decided somebody should take this fan club over. So without even asking, it was thrown in my lap. So I had to learn as I went along. So I thought it was going to last a year in this organisation anyway. Somehow or other, 10 years later, I was still with them. So I left in 1972.
How long were they together as a group?
Probably 1968, 69.
About 10 years?
Yeah.
Well, how did you two get together, and what's the involvement there?
Well, my life was a little less exciting than Freda's. As a matter of fact, when a lot of girls where I came from in Baltimore, we all wanted to be Freda Kelly. We all knew about her.
You could have done in the beginning.
So I met Freda through mutual friends in Liverpool, and I met her off and on through the years, and it took a couple of decades, I think, of running into each other before we finally started talking about making this film together, good old Freda. And we got
That's a clever name.
Yeah. Well, the Beatles kind of came up with it, not us. But there was no doubt what the film was going to be called once we heard the Beatles Christmas record where they do the shout out affectionately to her.
So that's what they call me. They call me a few other names, but nobody knows about that.
Can you say it on the air? We'll pass on that.
We'll pass on that. Because, you know, sometimes I'm narky, and I'd be narky in the office and, you know, wouldn't stand for any nonsense.
Tell me about the Beatles. Tell me about each one of them. Do you have a story about each one of them?
Well, they're all different, you know, like everybody else. We've all got different personalities, and naturally there's two sides to everybody as well, isn't there? You know, so Do you want me here for a month?
Go ahead.
Well, no, in a couple of minutes, I probably would say that Paul was the romantic one. Ringo was the happy one, always happy and dancing. He was the dancer. And George could dance as well. And people class George as the quiet one. He isn't quiet, but when you're dealing with Paul and John, you are quiet because they just take over. And John is a man. There's loads of sides to John, So that's all I'm saying at the moment.
Well, after we shut the cameras off, can you talk more?
But everybody's got their opinion on the Beatles, haven't they? Or they will have a favourite Beatle. But I don't have a favourite Beatle. People seem to think that I must have a favourite Beatle, but I haven't. I like them all. I like them all individually for things, but I like them as a group. And even when they split up, I like some of Paul's stuff. Same with George, same with John, but it's the Beatles' music as a group that I prefer.
Why did they split up?
Loads of things, you just move on in life, don't you? And you get married and you have a family, and then they take over, and you're not a teenager anymore.
You've just reiterated the history of the world.
As we know it.
Yeah.
Well, tell me more about this film.
Well, the film had its premiere at South by Southwest in March 2013. And amazingly enough, 4 years later, we're still on the road with this film, still being invited to events like this with Doc Utah. We're delighted to be here. But for 4 years, there's been quite a bit of traveling, going to film festivals and Beatle events and all kinds of things. It's very unusual for a documentary to have that kind of shelf life, or whatever you want to call it. And I think it's because it's a testament to the way that Freda's lived her life. People really enjoy this documentary and fall in love with her when they
Don't know why.
it.
I don't know why.
I can tell you why, but we'll have to turn the cameras off.
You're such a smoothie.
But also the film had the approval of the Beatles organization, and that was very rare. A lot of people get shut down, but in this case it had their blessing, and part of that was because of the amount of help Freda gave them and the amount that they trusted her. She helped their family, she helped the fans, she helped them. So, and we were the first documentary, or first film really, to be granted permission to use real Beatles music from the masters in our documentary, and there were 4 of them, 4 songs we got to choose. And that made this film go viral before it even came out, so we were pretty astonished at that.
Well, a lot of artists wouldn't do that
No,
unless they control everything.
that's right.
So they must have thought a great deal of it.
Yes, real testament to
No,
her.
I rang them up and offered to pay them.
$10.
I refer to a great American philosopher occasionally. I now can refer to a great Britain philosopher.
Life according to Freda Kelly.
That's right. Tell me about your grandson.
My grandson is now nearly 7, and he's a joy because I never thought I'd have him. So I was very lucky because my daughter had him when she was 38. And he's the cause of all of this, really, because where I will say lay low for about 40 years, I had a different name, I had a married name, I moved out of Liverpool, nobody knew what I'd done or anything. But over the years, people have said, oh, you should write a book, but there's too many Beatle books, and I didn't really want to write a book. So I used to palm them off and say, yeah, I will one day, But then when Niall, his name is Niall, when Niall came along, Kathy and Rachel, my daughter, said, come on, Mum, you'll have to do something. So, my daughter had me dead and buried, more or less. You're getting old.
You look pretty good for being dead and buried.
You're getting old, Alzheimer's setting in, and you know, I never wrote anything down. And she said, you know, Niall's not going to know what you've done in your youth. So you got, you know, you're the grey-haired granny in the corner with the 2 cats, you know. So
We'll talk about the cats next.
Yeah, oh, even one of them got in the film. So in the end, I said, well, you know, I'm Irish, I'm good at talking, as you can see. So I thought, well, I don't mind just talking into a tape recorder. And then Kathy, lucky enough, her nephew, is a filmmaker, and he was involved in his own film. But she managed to persuade him to, you know, just do a little bit, come over for a weekend to Liverpool. And he came, and I thought I was getting a DVD out of this. I didn't think I was going to get a documentary, you know, that was going to go all over the world. Otherwise, I would have made a little bit more effort in clothes and makeup, you know.
Well, that's a woman thing.
Yeah. Oh, my daughters told me, you know, Mum, you could have made an effort and got your hair done, you know. I said, I just came home from work and sat on the couch. I'm in my work clothes, you know, I've got no makeup on, so it's just like talking.
The real you.
Well, yeah. What you see is what you get with me.
Very interesting. Very, very interesting. I have a granddaughter. Well, several of them.
Yeah.
She made that up.
That's brilliant, isn't it?
Isn't it?
Yeah.
And we just stumbled on that yesterday.
Yeah.
Didn't even know she had it in her closet.
Wow, that's very cool.
Well, you know, that happened to me. I stumbled on a few boxes up in my loft that I'd forgotten I had, and found a few Beatle things as well.
Well, they must be worth some money.
No, I kept the things that weren't worth money. and the things that were worth money, I gave away. I kept all my Beatle monthlies, you know. That's a book that came out every month about the Beatles. And why I kept them was I wrote a newsletter in that to the fans, and the photographs in those books are fantastic. So I thought, you know, when I get grandchildren or something, I can give them, and at least they know what I did with my life, you know. So that was the reason why I came there. So I've got all the original Beatle monthlies.
You're a billionaire.
So they're for my grandson.
And they sold that magazine in America too. It was about this big, and it had maybe 30 pages in it, and it cost 50 cents. And we used to have to save our money to go buy this magazine, but we wouldn't miss it. You know, sometimes we pitched together to share the magazine, and Freda's articles were always in there. She wrote a beautiful article, just little tidbits about
Just
what
little,
the Beatles
little
were.
things, because I went to all their homes all the time. So if Ringo, he bought his wife for a wedding present a dog, a poodle called Tiger. So I got to know about that, where the fans wouldn't know. So I would put like little silly things like that, little bits of gossip about
Well, that's
them.
what people want to know about.
Yeah,
The real
you know,
Beatles.
Georgie on the dentist.
Well, then how did you get involved with this?
With the film, I produced the film. So as Freda mentioned, I do have, my nephew is in the film business, and as a matter of fact, in 2014, he was named Sundance Best Director. So we were real lucky to get him when he was on his way up, because we started this film in 2012. We couldn't get him now to, you know, he's too famous now. But, you know, we just talked him into doing it, and we were real lucky because he was free at the time. And he and Freda hit it off.
Who would not hit it off with
Yeah,
Freda?
well, this is a good point. But we have about 40 hours of footage of Freda talking and
I
talking
told you
and
I'm a
talking.
good talker.
Because she'd begin one story, remember, and then the next thing you know,
Shoot to another
5
one.
stories.
In half of that story, so I was everywhere. So he had a nightmare with me, you know, trying to piece it all together.
Yeah, it was
He
wonderful.
opened my memory box because I hadn't talked about it for years. And it's like yourself, you forget what you've done in your youth, and then something props your memory, and then it just opens all the boxes. Well, nearly all the boxes.
What's left?
When are we going to open the other boxes? Is that the next film?
So,
What else do you want to tell me?
Well, since it's come out, I've had a great time.
bet.
I love traveling, and I've got to places that I would never get to, you know, and I'm so excited being here because I came to Vegas 10 years ago with friends for a holiday.
You escaped?
I did.
Well, goes to Vegas, supposed to stay there. How
And
did you escape?
I lost $40. I went home. I'd lost
No wonder you
$40. Yeah. And you know, I took a trip into the Grand Canyon, and I've got a vivid imagination. You know, I was in there and I was looking up how big it was, and I had like 10,000 Indians looking down on me. You know? I thought, how do these people get across America? You know, to get to Vegas and everything. Well, not Vegas then, but you know, wagon train. Because we used to get wagon train on English television, and I used to watch that all the
Ward
time.
Bond.
And it was the other guy. He was the scout for wagon train. Clint Eastwood.
Robert.
No, it was Clint Eastwood.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And
That's where Clint Eastwood got his start, wasn't
Was
it?
it?
yeah, he was the scout for wagon train.
Yeah.
And so I've always been fascinated, like, with this area, you know, the desert and the Red Mountains and everything. So then when I got invited to come in, there was no hesitation. I went, yes, please.
Well, I worked at Grand Canyon Lodge in my misspent youth.
Did you?
I was a kitchen help.
Right.
That's a high-class word for dishwasher.
Yeah.
And then I was a bull cook, and then they fired me.
Oh,
But I went back. It's
Yeah,
not about
yeah.
me, it's about you
Yeah,
guys.
yeah. So that's why I'm here. So, you know, through the documentary, I've managed to get to quite a lot of places that I would never have got to.
Fantastic.
and meet fans too.
Yeah.
Meet Beatle fans who
The-
bring in things that she sent to them 50 years ago.
I know.
They
I can't
carry
believe that
them in.
they've kept these things, you know. They come up and
it's
go,
the
we've got your
Beatles."
letter from 1963. Hello.
That's
Yeah.
nice.
Fabulous. Anything else you want to tell us?
Just that we're grateful for the invitation, and we've got a lot of hard workers around here and who have treated us really well, and we just,
We had a good night last night.
yes.
Yeah, there's some good Beatle fans there last night.
That's fantastic. The former mayor of St. George, I interviewed him on the show. Of course, one of his sayings was, you either live in St. George or you're going to. So when are you going to live here?
Oh, you never know. Now I know where it is. I could be back.
Well, you know, there are two of the best people in town are Phil and Della.
Really?
Yeah, they're great.
Well, they've done great by us, that's for sure. Everything, every little detail. So we may just have to move here. I don't know.
No, I think Della would hound me out after a while. She'd go, oh, I've had enough of you. I've had enough of you. Get out.
Well, it's really wonderful to have you here.
Thank you,
Thank
Lane.
you.
Yeah.
We're really appreciative of happy people, and you guys are happy and accomplished. And how did you deal with the Beatle fans? Wasn't that a problem?
Yeah. No. Good. I didn't have any problems because I think what helped was I was a Beatle fan myself. So I knew what they wanted, and
You'd been there.
yeah, and I would try and do my best to get what they wanted. You know, I couldn't give them a Beatle, but I could help in other ways.
That's good. Well, thank you very much for being with us.
Okay.
Thank you.
What is the name of the movie again?
Good old Freda.
Good Old Freda.
Not old. Don't be putting the old on me.
Oh,
It's good old. O-L apostrophe.
Good
Good old
Freda.
Freda.
Okay, I'm sorry.
It's an affectionate
You know, the Brits
term.
don't think the Americans have spoken the English language ever. And we haven't.
You have to go to Ireland for the best English language. Dublin is the best place. Speaks the perfect English.
I knew that already, but I'm glad you reminded me.
Yeah, good.
Freda Kelly, Kathy McCabe,
Yes?
thank you so much for being with us on A Story to Tell from the campus of Dixie State University.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is Lane Rano. Thank you for being with us.